Praise be Jesus and Mary.
Now and forever.
Today in the United States is the day of prayer for the legal protection of unborn children. And legal protection for unborn children is most definitely necessary, but nevertheless insufficient. If we are talking about eliminating that sin and that crime of abortion and creating a culture of life, then legal protection for unborn children is necessary but insufficient. Why? Because we know that God's holy law must be inscribed upon our very hearts for it to be effective and to orient our lives towards God. So the exterior norm is necessary, but not sufficient. It must become an interior conviction. It must be written on our very hearts. We must go from required to desired. It must be required, but at the same time, we must assimilate it and desire that norm. And for us to do that, to desire it, we have to see it in the context of a whole culture of life that we are building. Again, legal protection for the unborn is a necessary step, but just a step, not the goal. A step towards the goal of a culture of life that we must desire. And a culture of life has many elements, and for the sake of brevity, we can't name them all, but it's amazing to think how all these elements fit together. And when we realize how they fit together, we desire them all. And when we desire them all, we build a real culture of life. A culture of life is a culture in which every conception of a human being takes place in a sacramental marriage. One man, one woman, united by love, who make a lifelong, exclusive, perpetual commitment to one another. Every human child is conceived in such a marriage, free from contraception, free from a contraceptive mentality, where life is truly welcomed, wanted, desired. Every human being is conceived of two people, a man and a woman, who did not fornicate with others before marriage, who did not betray one another during marriage. Of two people who, from the beginning, from ever since they knew they had a vocation to marriage, even before they knew what the name of their future spouse would be, they were already, from that moment they knew they were called to marriage, faithful to one another in their thoughts, in their words, in their action. They kept themselves all ready for that future marriage. That, wow, it's an ideal, but yes, the ideal that is our goal. And the legal protection of the unborn is just a step towards that goal of a culture of life. So, last point here. Every step is key to building a culture of life. Modesty is, whether the next one, it's difficult to speak of which one is next. It's certainly an important step in building a culture of life. Modesty. And how does that make sense? It makes sense because we say that there should be an exterior norm, an external norm that protects legally the unborn. Because what? Because we don't have absolute power over another person. We don't have that authority of life and death over any other person, but we don't even have that authority over ourselves. That's where we have to see modesty. Not even over our own person do we have that absolute power. Others have a dignity, we have a dignity. We must respect the dignity of others, we must respect our own dignity as well. And if we are to respect the dignity of the child who is conceived in the womb of a mother, by the coming together of mother and father, well then the body, the womb, the dignity of the mother too must be respected. And that is what modesty does. So again, this is part of the culture of life. It's a demanding culture, but my goodness, once we have it, it's an anticipation of the life of the citizens of heaven. So this culture of life is a realization that we don't have absolute power over the bodies of others, but not even over our own body. The body of those called to marriage specifically belongs not to themselves, but to their spouse or to their future spouse. And this, again, is the fundamental reason why both pornography and immodesty are so gravely sinful, and not just childish immaturities that we just have to put up with. No, they're unfortunately key impediments that stand on the way of building a culture of life, that stand really in the way of seeing life as it is, a gift from God, a gift to a man and a woman, a gift to a husband and wife. So pornography, thanks be to God, it's part of the discourse of a culture of life. We're talking about how big of a problem it is, how grave of a sin it is, and it is being combated. Thanks be to God. Modesty, we're not there yet, but we need to get there. We need to get there. We need to see and interiorize that conviction that just as abortion, a terrible crime, is a crime against the dignity of the person of the child. So, again, big step in between, but this is, again, just a short homily. So, immodesty is linked to it. Why? Because it's a grave sin against the dignity of the body of the mother, who allows herself to be objectified, reduced to an object of lust. So, pornography, part of the discourse already on the culture of life. Modesty, not yet, but we need to get there most definitely and see its connection to the whole big picture of the culture of life that we are trying to build. So, legal protection of the unborn, definitely necessary, but not sufficient. The law of God must be written on our very hearts. The law of God must be not just required of us, but desired by us. It must be written in our hearts and come from our hearts, and then we can build that culture of life that God wants us to build on this earth. Praised be Jesus and Mary.
Now.